Welcome to the Zone Media Network. I'm Griffin, your host. Get ready because Canada is staring into the abyss. Mark Carney just unveiled his grand vision, a so-called nation-building gas strategy designed to go head-to-head with Donald Trump's energy machine. But what did Canadians get from this grand announcement? Instead of a show of force, they got a masterclass in failure. We're talking about a cascade of hollow commitments, blueprints for pipelines that will never be built, and vital energy terminals hopelessly entangled in bureaucratic knots. Absolutely zero real movement. And while Ottawa is busy playing make-believe, Trump's America is laughing all the way to the bank, shipping unprecedented volumes of natural gas across the globe. While Carney delivers speeches, Trump delivers results. It's that simple. So, Carney rolls out the red carpet for what he calls 5 priority projects, greenlit under his new fast-tracking legislation. This is supposed to be his big move, the masterstroke to fortify the Canadian economy against a trade war with the United States. But as you just heard from Pierre, the criticism is that this is too little, far too late. Carney stands at a podium and rattles off his list of nation-building achievements: an expansion at the Port of Montreal, a plan to double LNG output in British Columbia, a new-age nuclear reactor in Ontario, a couple of mines for copper and zinc. He presents this list as if the work is already finished, as if victory has been declared. Did you see the sheer audacity? Mark Carney standing there, feeding Canadians another serving of polished promises gift-wrapped as national progress. He wants you to believe that a new era of LNG expansion, mining, and nuclear power is just around the corner. Let's inject some reality here. The easy part is reading from a teleprompter. The hard part is actually building something. Canada's track record on delivering major energy projects isn't just bad, it's been a national embarrassment for decades. Carney wants you to buy into the fantasy that doubling LNG production in British Columbia is a done deal. Here's the cold, hard truth. Canada has been chasing the LNG dragon for more than 20 years and has exactly one single terminal under construction. One. And that single project is hopelessly behind schedule and drowning in budget overruns and disputes. Now, contrast that with Donald Trump's America. Over there, LNG plants get approved, constructed, and are exporting billions of dollars worth of energy to Europe and Asia. While Carney is talking about opening new offices in Calgary and holding endless consultations, Trump was flipping the switch. He weaponized American gas, transforming it into an instrument of economic power. He was busy signing deals, creating jobs, and driving down energy costs for American families. And here's the real threat in all this. Every single day of delay from Ottawa is another day that Washington swoops in and snatches up contracts that should have belonged to Canadians. It gets worse. American companies are now exploiting this weakness by buying up cheap Canadian gas, sending it south of the border, and then reselling it at a massive premium on the international market. That isn't leadership from Ottawa, that's being taken for a ride. While Trump is delivering real pipelines and actual exports, Carney is delivering nothing but more red tape and empty speeches. There are no results, and it's the Canadian people who are footing the bill for this incompetence. Pierre Poilievre hit the nail directly on the head. 6 months into Carney's leadership, what does the scoreboard actually say? 0. A big fat 0. 0 major projects have moved forward, 0 LNG terminals have been advanced, and 0 pipelines have been unlocked. It is a perfect record of absolute inaction. And as Canada remains frozen in place, the rest of the world is sprinting ahead. Europe and Asia are securing their long-term energy futures, and America is collecting the profits. Canada is being left in the dust, watching from the sidelines as opportunities that should have been theirs are lost forever. Pierre broke it down with undeniable numbers. There are 39 projects currently suffocating in the federal government's regulatory labyrinth. In Saskatchewan alone, another 100 projects are in limbo, waiting for a decision from Ottawa that will likely never arrive. This country is sitting on an energy goldmine. Its potential for energy independence is staggering. This isn't just a backlog, it's a deliberate blockade. And what is Carney's brilliant solution to this crisis? He's going to open a new office. An office that, by his own admission, might one day get around to sending an email. That's his answer to an economic emergency. Let's be clear. Trump tore through red tape, greenlit LNG terminals, and had construction crews working round the clock. Carney's adding another floor to the skyscraper of bureaucracy and has the nerve to call it progress. It would be laughable if the consequences for Canadian workers and their families weren't so devastating. Energy should be Canada's trump card. This is one of the most resource-rich nations on the entire planet, with some of the largest natural gas reserves in the world. Global demand is skyrocketing, especially after Trump proved how LNG could be used as a tool of both economic and geopolitical power. Under his leadership, the U.S. didn't just sell gas, it completely took over the global market. American workers were building terminals at a pace the world had never seen. American companies were signing multi-billion-dollar deals across Europe and Asia, and American families are reaping the rewards through job creation, economic growth, and lower energy bills. Canada should have all of that. As you just heard Pierre Poilievre explain so clearly, the hypocrisy is stunning. Carney ran on a platform of unprecedented crisis and unimaginable speed, yet he has produced nothing. He mocks his own promises by creating a new, powerless office that will someday consider approving 5 projects. It's pathetic. He's right. The message to Carney and his government is simple. Get out of the way. And look at this tweet from Pierre. Since Mark Carney took office, Canada has lost 86,000 jobs. $62 billion in net investment has vanished. It is now the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. And after 6 long months, all he has to show for it is a list of 5 projects he's sending to a new, understaffed government office for more review. To say he's moving at a snail's pace is a grave insult to snails. Let's put those numbers in perspective. $62 billion in investment has evaporated. 86,000 jobs have been wiped out. This isn't just a minor downturn. This is the single worst 5-month investment collapse in the history of Canada. Investors are running for the exits. And it's not because Canada lacks resources, it's because the government has made it fundamentally impossible to develop them. Instead of harnessing LNG as a source of strength, Carney has shackled it with carbon taxes, shipping bans, and a nightmarish consultation process that can drag on for decades. But the humiliation doesn't end there. While Ottawa dithers, Washington is getting rich off of Canada's resources. American companies are buying Canadian natural gas, liquefying it, and reselling it at an enormous profit. The pockets of American corporations are getting stuffed, while Canada is left fighting for scraps. This is the direct consequence of Carney's policies. Canadians are doing all the hard work while Americans are closing all the deals. Trump showed the world the blueprint for success. He cleared the regulatory hurdles, unleashed production, and made LNG a pillar of American global dominance. He put America first. Canada desperately needs a leader who will put Canada first. The formula is proven. Reduce regulation, empower the industry, and prioritize the national interest above all else. By comparison, Carney's approach is a recipe for paralysis. He talks about urgency while creating gridlock. He talks about nation building while every economic indicator shows the nation is shrinking. Jobs, investment, and opportunity are all swirling down the drain. Canada should be a giant in the LNG world, but instead, it's watching its own resources get sold off by Washington. And as you just heard from Pierre, his message is a call to action. It's about getting the government out of the way so builders can build and workers can work. His Canadian Sovereignty Act is a plan to dismantle the very laws and taxes that are killing these projects. It's about letting Canada become the strong, self-reliant nation it was always meant to be. He's not talking about promises. He's looking at the cold, hard results. $62 billion of investment gone and 86,000 jobs lost. Now we bring in the expert analysis. As you just heard from the CBC, even the media is questioning how fast these projects can really get going. We get the list of the 5 projects, but we also learn there's another list of 7 projects that are still considered priorities but need even more work. So after all the hype, Carney delivers his list of 5 projects. And what's on it? LNG Canada Phase 2, a nuclear plant, a port expansion, and a couple of mines. I would be thrilled if it weren't for his disastrous track record. It sounds fine on paper, but here's the kicker. Most of these projects were already moving forward. Carney isn't launching anything new, he's just putting his branding on old initiatives and calling it fast-tracking. That's not leadership, that's cheap political theater. Let's remember the contrast. Donald Trump promised American energy dominance, and he achieved it. He delivered record LNG exports, massive pipeline expansions, and multi-billion-dollar contracts that reshaped the entire global energy market. He used America's power to his advantage. Europe became dependent on his gas to get through its energy crisis, and Asia was lining up to buy. America didn't just participate in the LNG race, it completely conquered it. Now look back at Canada. Carney is pointing to LNG Canada Phase 2 as if it's some revolutionary breakthrough. It's old news, a project that isn't even done yet and has been a magnet for cost overruns and delays. Trump approved and built more LNG terminals in a single term than Canada has in the last 30 years. That's the only scoreboard that matters. Carney can add mines and nuclear plants to his list, but it's just rebranding projects that were already in the works. It's like showing up to a game in the final minutes, putting on a jersey and trying to take credit for the win. No one is fooled, and the experts agree. This announcement raises more questions than it answers. Carney campaigned on urgency and ambition, but he has delivered a timid list of projects and a new layer of bureaucracy to place on top of a system that he himself has admitted is broken. That is not reform, that is just redecorating a crumbling building, and it's costing the Canadian economy billions. Here's the fundamental difference. Trump understood that to achieve energy dominance, you have to destroy bureaucracy, not add to it. He didn't create new, confusing systems. He ripped out the old ones. He unleashed American production and made the United States the undisputed king of LNG. That is why Europe is now dependent on American gas and why American companies are signing record-breaking deals in Asia. Carney, on the other hand, is trying to solve a problem by making it more complicated. Instead of fixing the broken system, he's just building another broken system on top of it. It's a strategy of denial, and it's slowly killing the country's economic future. While America builds an export empire, Canada is stuck with one single delayed LNG terminal. This is why Pierre is right to call it pathetic. Ottawa needs to get out of its own way. And as the political analyst just pointed out, the government is trying to frame this as a huge step forward, but the opposition sees it as completely hollow. The government's new slogan is one project, one review, 1 year. It sounds great, but why isn't that the standard for everything, instead of just these 5 projects? What's clear is that the Prime Minister is now personally tied to the success or failure of these 5 projects. He has taken full ownership. So now Carney owns these 5 projects. Let's be perfectly clear. This isn't a display of leadership. It's a desperate political gamble. He is staking his reputation on projects that were already in development, hoping to claim credit for their completion. Real accountability comes from delivering new results. Trump built his energy dominance on actual pipelines and real terminals. Carney is building his legacy on stacks of paper. This story gets uglier. The United States isn't just winning, it's profiting from Canada's self-inflicted weakness. As Carney creates more delays, American companies are swooping in, buying Canada's natural gas for pennies on the dollar and reselling it for a fortune. Washington is making the money while Ottawa watches its own resources enrich other nations. Trump's strategy ensured that American resources created American jobs and American wealth. Carney's strategy is turning Canada into Washington's lucrative side hustle. It's like owning a gold mine, but letting your neighbor keep all the gold. Every day this continues, the gap gets wider. U.S. companies are locking in 20-year deals with Europe and Asia deals that Canada should be fighting for, but they can't, because Carney is too busy with slogans and press conferences. Accountability doesn't build pipelines, and bureaucracy doesn't export LNG. The result is a global victory for America and a national tragedy for Canada. Until Ottawa gets out of the way, Trump's vision will continue to win, and Canada will remain stuck on the sidelines, watching its own wealth slip away. That's all I have for you today from us here at the Zone Media Network. I'm Griffin, your host. Head over to American Zone for the latest U.S. news. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. To everyone in Canada, get rid of Carney. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. The politics of pipelines, deconstructing Canada's contentious path to LNG export. Introduction. The global energy landscape is in a state of profound flux, creating both immense opportunities and significant challenges for resource-rich nations. Within this dynamic, the debate over Canada's development of its liquefied natural gas LNG export capabilities has become a flashpoint for intense political and economic conflict. A recent viral video analysis frames this issue as a stark narrative of national failure, contrasting the perceived paralysis of Prime Minister Mark Carney's government with the aggressive energy dominance strategy of the former United States administration under Donald Trump. While the video's confrontational style effectively mobilizes a particular viewpoint, a deeper, more objective analysis reveals a far more complex interplay of competing priorities, regulatory philosophies, and long-term economic visions. At the heart of the issue lies a fundamental question for Canada. How does a nation balance the urgent pursuit of economic prosperity with the imperative for stringent environmental oversight and social responsibility? This essay will deconstruct the layers of this debate, moving beyond the simplistic hero-villain narrative to explore the economic arguments, the government's policy rationale, and the broader geopolitical context shaping Canada's energy future. The critique: a narrative of economic stagnation and missed opportunity. The primary criticism leveled against the Carney government, forcefully articulated by figures like conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, centers on a narrative of bureaucratic inertia leading to significant economic self-sabotage. The central claim is that Canada is failing to capitalize on its vast natural gas reserves due to an intentionally cumbersome and inefficient regulatory system. Critics point to a substantial backlog of projects as prima facie evidence of this paralysis. According to figures cited in the debate, there are allegedly 39 major projects currently stalled within the federal approval system, with an additional 100 projects in the province of Saskatchewan alone awaiting federal decisions. This regulatory bottleneck, the argument follows, has tangible and severe economic consequences. The most frequently cited statistics claim that within a 6-month period under the current administration, Canada has suffered the loss of 86,000 jobs and has seen a net outflow of $62 billion in investment capital. This data is used to paint a grim picture of Canada as the fastest shrinking G7 economy, an assertion designed to evoke a sense of national crisis and decline. The narrative effectively positions the government not merely as inefficient, but as an active antagonist to the nation's prosperity. This critique is powerfully amplified by contrasting Canada's situation with the energy policy of the United States during the Trump presidency. The America First energy strategy, which prioritized deregulation and the rapid expansion of LNG exports, is held up as the definitive model of success. Under this framework, the U.S. transformed into a dominant global energy supplier, constructing export terminals at a rapid pace and securing lucrative, long-term contracts with nations in Europe and Asia. The ultimate economic indictment in this narrative is the claim that U.S. companies are now profiting from Canada's inaction by purchasing Canadian natural gas at a discount, piping it south, and then exporting it to the world market at a significant markup. This transforms the issue from one of internal mismanagement into one of national humiliation, where a strategic rival is directly benefiting from Canada's policy failures. The government's position, a strategy of measured development and targeted intervention. From the government's perspective, the situation is not one of inaction, but of deliberate, responsible governance. While Prime Minister Carney has himself acknowledged that past approval processes were arduous and inefficient, his administration's approach is framed as a necessary corrective rather than a continuation of the problem. The government's underlying rationale posits that large-scale energy projects require a regulatory framework that meticulously accounts for environmental impacts and fulfills the duty to consult with indigenous groups. This perspective argues that sidestepping these crucial steps in a rush for rapid development would lead to greater long-term costs, including environmental degradation, protracted legal challenges, and the loss of social license to operate. In response to the criticisms of systemic delay, the Carney government's signature policy has been the creation of a new Calgary-based Major Projects Office and the introduction of legislation to fast-track 5 specific projects deemed to be in the national interest. This list includes a second phase for LNG Canada, a new nuclear project in Ontario, a port expansion in Montreal, and 2 mining operations. The stated goal is to create a more streamlined process for these priority projects, aiming for a final decision within 1 year and completion within 2. However, this targeted approach has itself become a source of contention. Critics dismiss it as political theater, arguing that it is little more than an attempt to rebrand projects that were already well underdeveloped. Furthermore, the decision to create a separate, expedited process for a select few projects is seen by some analysts as an implicit admission that the primary regulatory system remains fundamentally broken. Rather than undertaking a comprehensive reform of the entire system, the government has created what is described as a parallel regime, leaving the vast majority of other potential projects within the slower, more complex existing framework. This has led to the charge that the government is simply layering a new bureaucracy on top of an old one, creating the appearance of action without addressing the root cause of the delays. The broader context: geopolitics, market forces, and competing philosophies. The debate over Canada's LNG strategy cannot be fully understood without examining the broader geopolitical and economic landscape. The global demand for natural gas has surged, driven by a confluence of factors including Europe's strategic pivot away from Russian energy and the rapidly growing economies of Asia seeking cleaner burning fuels than coal. This has created a historic window of opportunity for countries with significant gas reserves. Nations that can quickly and reliably bring LNG to the market are positioned to secure immense economic benefits and enhance their geopolitical influence. This is the context in which the divergent paths of Canada and the United States become so significant. The U.S. approach under President Trump was one of aggressive deregulation, viewing environmental standards and lengthy review processes as impediments to economic growth. The result was a boom in LNG exports that successfully established the U.S. as a global energy powerhouse. Canada, by contrast, has pursued a path that seeks to integrate climate change goals and indigenous reconciliation into its economic development model. Policies such as the industrial carbon tax, shipping bans on certain coasts, and multi-layered consultation requirements are products of this philosophy. The core of the issue, therefore, is a fundamental disagreement over the definition of national interest. Is it best served by maximizing resource extraction and economic output as quickly as possible, or is it better served by a more cautious, regulated approach that prioritizes long-term environmental sustainability and social equity, even if it means foregoing some immediate economic gains? There are significant risks and trade-offs associated with each path. The American model risks environmental damage and social backlash, while the Canadian model risks being outmaneuvered in a fast-moving global market, leading to the kind of investment flight and missed opportunities that critics highlight. Furthermore, the success of major energy projects is not solely dependent on government approval. It requires enormous private sector investment, stable market conditions, and investor confidence. A regulatory environment perceived as unpredictable or overly burdensome can deter the very capital needed to finance these multi-billion-dollar undertakings. The claim that $62 billion in investment has fled Canada suggests that, from the perspective of global capital, the balance of risk and reward in the country's current climate is unfavorable. Conclusion: a nation at a crossroads. The contentious debate surrounding Canada's LNG export strategy is more than a simple political squabble. It is a reflection of a nation grappling with its identity and its future in a complex world. The narrative presented in the source video, with its clear heroes and villains, serves as a powerful piece of political communication but obscures the nuanced realities of economic and energy policy. The challenges facing Canada are not merely the result of one leader's actions, but are rooted in a deep-seated tension between the drive for economic development and a commitment to progressive social and environmental values. The critics' charge that Canada is missing a crucial economic moment has merit, as global energy markets will not wait indefinitely. The data on stalled projects and capital flight points to a genuine crisis of investor confidence. At the same time, the government's argument for a regulatory framework that ensures sustainability and respects Indigenous rights cannot be easily dismissed. The long-term consequences of unchecked development could be just as damaging as the short-term consequences of economic stagnation. Ultimately, Canada finds itself at a crossroads. The path forward requires moving beyond the polarized rhetoric of progress versus paralysis. It necessitates a serious national conversation about how to create a regulatory system that is both efficient and responsible, one that can unlock the nation's vast resource wealth while upholding its commitment to environmental stewardship and social justice. The solution is unlikely to be found in simply getting out of the way or in layering new processes onto flawed ones, but in the difficult work of building a modern, comprehensive framework that can confidently and competitively navigate the intricate challenges of the 21st century global economy.